So even without hallucinations, you're still getting a smaller lens to the world and a smaller slice of the picture.
A federal judge sanctioned 2 lawyers $110,000. It was the largest AI hallucination penalty in the US legal history, over 23 fabricated citations and invented quotations.
You can't just put ChatGPT on autopilot. Like, responsibility still lies on you.
There's a Stanford study this year that showed that AI models affirm users' views almost 50% more than a human does on average. It's trying to flatter you.
It is under any pushback. Like, if it's
Yeah.
like, you're wrong, and you're like, no, I'm right. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I reevaluated it. You must be right.
Thank you all for joining. My name is Leor from Exploring ChatGPT. I'm here with Daniel. Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, Daniel from Why Try AI here.
Awesome.
Hi, from Malaysia. So hello, Zafar, to you as well.
Different places in the world. I wonder what time it is in
Awesome.
Malaysia.
It's awesome.
So yeah, we're here to talk about AI blind spots, if you saw the title of the stream. And we kind of have like a couple little segments here in this stream, rather than just the usual back and forth between Daniel and I. We're going to try and get the chat involved towards the end. Then we have a little demo for you, I can call it. It's more so just going to be having fun. So just to start off with AI blind spots based on the first thing that Daniel mentioned to me before the stream, this has to do with language and getting chatbots to search in a local language rather than just your own. So what do you got on this, Daniel?
Yeah, well, I think we talked about a couple of streams ago. We mentioned a little bit about sycophancy and how the chatbots are trying to please you. And I've written a while back about also how to fight and deal with that and how to present things in a way that encourages some neutrality. But then there are some more subtle things, like if you just go to a neutral topic and you say in English, hey, give me the top 5 news items about Denmark. You might think, oh, the chatbot is digging up some local Danish news. But the reality is, because you're speaking, in this case, English to it, it will just parse things like Reuters, AP News, and you will get an English global media perspective on Denmark. And that's a thing that's, unless you flag it and unless you look for it, you will not really pick up. And so in the next article I'm writing about, it's just like you can literally just force the chatbot to crawl the local sources because LLMs are so good at parsing local languages, and then return to you with an English language summary of the local perspective. And you get a pretty different mix of stories just by directing the language in which the searches are conducted. So that's one small blind spot that is almost built in by default. And of course, this is the same. If I would be searching in Russian, then I would probably get a Russian skewed perspective of any given topic, unless I force it to search local Danish news sources or English, whatever. And that's a good example of blind spots that we all live with without necessarily being conscious of them.
That's interesting.
And since you actually do a lot of writing with AI and thinking with AI and philosophy and so on, I'm sure you have your own observations about stuff like, where are they weak? Where are the areas where you feel chatbots are not delivering what you would expect? And how do you work with that?
Yeah. I would say chatbots, image generators, agents.
Sure.
Nothing is quite perfect. Probably never will be. Sorry, excuse me. At least for the public. Whatever is going on in the private realm, I don't know. I've only heard stories.
They've got AGI running already.
Yeah, probably.
The whole government is just AGI.
Let's just veer off into the AGI conversation now.
Let me go grab my tinfoil hat.
Yeah. So I will say, in my experience, I find blind spots, the simplest way to put it is like multi-layered tasks, whether I'm asking a chatbot for something or asking an agent for something or an image generator. Just like easy example, if I'm, let's say, building a thumbnail for YouTube, which you would think based on current viewership aren't great. Not true. The CTR is actually high. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, let's put that aside.
You haven't quite cracked the algorithm yet.
No, the AI algo. So if I ask for too many things at once is basically what I mean when I say multi-layered. That's the funny part about AI. As smart as you think it is, you have to talk to it like a 5-year-old sometimes. First do this, let's get the answer, and then do this, and then do that.
Now erase this thing, we don't need this thing. Whatever.
And then next and next. If I ask it to do too many things at once, if I'm building a thumbnail of Daniel and I say, I want you to add a fedora to Daniel, I want the tint, I want the color grade of the image to be like this, and I don't have enough hair on my head, why'd you take the hair off my head, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it won't give me the final product that I want. I have to take it step by step. And the same, so that's image generators and chatbots, for example. Same thing works for agents. So I think really this is my main use case now, because the way that I run my Substack is pretty straightforward at this point, but the way that I build on YouTube is a little bit different. So like using the MCP from Claude to Descript, if I ask Claude to do too many things for a video edit at once, it doesn't do it well. So I have to go in steps. So I have to first ask it to cut the video down to a certain amount of time and how many videos I want to parse out from the podcast.
So you find you're still doing a lot of hand holding, basically.
Yeah, it's step by step. And then towards the end, I ask it to help me build the intro montage, et cetera, and then add transitions. I can't ask for everything at once. And that's the main blind spot that I found using AI, is just multi-layered tasks and executing on those multi-layered tasks.
That's actually very interesting, because I recently keep hearing the buzz about token efficiency, and they actually propose a very different, basically an inverse solution, because I used to do what you do, and I actually recommended it through my time of writing about write. Go for an iterative approach. Go back and forth, see what the model returns, get a feel for its strength, weaknesses. Now fix this, go back and forth to try and learn it. But when you're working with more complex deployments, I see a lot of best practices say, don't waste the token window by going back and forth, because each turn, the chatbot has to go back to the start of the conversation and put that in each turn. So each turn gets bloated in the context. So just front load all the instructions in one, organize them and shoot them off and let them one-shot it. That's basically the suggestion. And I haven't tested it. So this is actually an interesting counter perspective for that, is that you still find yourself doing so much handholding that it's not realistic to just throw 10 items to implement at an agent and hope that it does well. And you end up going back and forth anyways. Then
I think it depends on the complexity of the task, and then also how good is the model. And this is where it comes back to that Ferrari conversation of Fable 5, for example. I actually didn't feel that way with Fable 5. I actually tested this with Fable 5 and threw a whole bunch of instructions at it and asked it to do and execute on these tasks for me, and it actually did it fairly well and pretty quickly. So I think it depends on the strength of the model and how complex what you're asking for.
I find the same with Opus, even for Opus 4.6. I find that I can usually give a bullet list of items to be done or responses to its questions in one go, and just go implement all 17 things I just mentioned. Yeah. And it's reasonably robust with that.
I've found one way around it sometimes, because I do tend to go more for the back and forth, because I know that the final product is going to be better. But I found that if you do want to give multi-layered prompts or tasks to an agent, it sometimes has to also include what you don't want.
Some guardrails and...
because if you don't include what you don't want, it will change things that you didn't want changed. Yeah. So I found that to happen. I kind of wanted to get into... So that's basically my take on my own personal experience with blind spots. Okay. I'm sure a lot of people will feel similarly. I kind of want to get into hallucinations with real consequences in terms of blind spots. And then after that, we'll get into this share screen and we'll do a demo. If the chat's active enough, we'll be happy for you guys to join in and help us break these chatbots. So
break the sound barrier.
Yeah. So just quick hallucinations with real consequences. And I'm going to be reading off my notes here because I have some specific examples. This is specifically in the legal field. So, and I want to get Daniel's opinion on this, and people in the chat, feel free. Good morning, Frida. So let's see. So here it is. Legal citation hallucinations are now a full-blown crisis. You have over 1,030 documented cases globally, growing 30 to 50 per month. In like the AI news cycle that I've been covering with other creators, I've been seeing this happening all over the world, and actually real consequences for people that are using AI incorrectly in the legal framework, whether it's negligence or on purpose. Either way, they're being investigated, prosecuted. It's pretty crazy, because for some reason, a lot of people are unaware of blind spots or hallucinations. So here's an example. I'll give a good one. This past May, this was in Oregon. It's a state in the US. A federal judge sanctioned 2 lawyers $110,000. It was the largest AI hallucination penalty in the US legal history. Over 23 fabricated citations and 8 invented quotations. Yeah. You're a lawyer, you're not checking your references, you're not checking your citations. It's absolutely insane that people still think that AI is just going to give you the right answer and you don't have to go and check. especially when you're getting paid for
And
it.
this is an example actually of a human blind spot, because you are supposed to be still the human in the loop, especially in a field as critical as legal or healthcare. You can't just put ChatGPT on autopilot and let it take over. You absolutely, like, responsibility still lies on you. And I think that's been reiterated many times. So everyone knows everyone. People should know that hallucinations are a thing and that you cannot just trust a chatbot to return a fully 100% transparent and vetted response. So for anything critical, you have to go to the source and check it, for sure.
Yeah. I have another one here. This past month, it's July 1st now, but in June of 2026, a Mississippi judge booted 4 lawyers from a case entirely after both sides' filings contained fabricated legal sources. There was another one where a judge sanctioned and suspended 2 attorneys for 6 months after they submitted briefs with citations to opinions that didn't exist and fabricated quotes.
Yeah.
A lot of
They
this.
even, I think they're even referred to a legal case or a court case that never existed, like somebody versus someone, and that literally was made up.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just don't do that, maybe.
Yeah, don't just, you're getting paid as a lawyer to do something, or really with any field, you have to double check the sources.
For sure.
And I think in general, this has to do with the sycophancy trap, which we'll get into.
Yeah. And I think for me, actually, these are examples of really outright malpractice to me. If you're citing anything empirical, any facts or data, court cases, you just absolutely have to go and check the source before you ever do that. That's 101, right? You would think. But I think the blind spot that I'm talking about with language, it's a bit more insidious. It's not that it might even go and find the right sources and quote them accurately, but just because it's doing it in English, you might not even be aware that it's not giving you the local perspective of, let's say in this case, Denmark, Danish news, or if I'm searching about a specific topic about the country, I'll probably get the Atlantic's perspective of that country rather than the country itself, unless I tell it to search local sources and surface that. So even without hallucinations, you're still getting a smaller lens to the world and a smaller slice of the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to get into the sycophancy trap kind of demo, unless you want anything else to add, Daniel?
No, go ahead. I can also maybe show my screen with what I mean with the whole language thing afterwards, but you can start with your...
Do you want to do that first?
I can. It's very quick. It's just to show, conceptualize what I mean. Let me see if I say share screen. Let's put this way. Oh, can you see my stuff?
Yeah, you're just sharing the window right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the window with the chatbot. And basically, all I did is summarize the 5 biggest news stories about Denmark of the past week. Just a concise one-sentence summary, just to keep it skimmable, right? And it gives me a list of 5 stories from, you can see Reuters, mostly AP News and so on. And then I take exactly the same prompt that all I do is search in Danish. I don't even say specifically do local searches. I just say search in Danish, reply in English. And you can see that not only is the mix of stories slightly different, there are some overlaps like the record heat, but a lot of it is inside-out perspective about local, like migration focus and healthcare reforms and so on. But also you can see that the sources are Danish sources. They found the actual local sources writing about topics and source that. So just a small tweak like that gives you a different lens and a different mix of sources and a different angle on the same stories, even though I haven't fundamentally changed the prompt. And then I tried for fun also to do it in search local Russian sources in Russian. And you can see that then they start talking about a super yacht linked to Putin passing about Denmark. So that becomes a top 5 news story about Denmark seen through a Russian perspective, right? So that's actually what I'm referring to. I haven't checked it, but let's assume that all of these sources are indeed correct. There is nothing hallucinated, but the mix and the perspective and the feeling about Denmark you get from different local perspectives is very different, obviously, right? So that's the key point.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's just being aware of the fact that your chatbot might be biased inherently by the language you're speaking. So if you are writing in Russian, you might be getting a Russian perspective from your chatbot because it's going to be doing Russian searches and so on and so forth.
It's interesting. Interesting how much language comes into play. And also how there's always a super yacht missing in some Russian billionaire.
You can't step outside without running into a super yacht. It's just they're all over, sprinkled all over.
Yeah.
Russian oligarch super yachts.
Yeah. So yeah, I will do the share screen as well here in a second. Just want to give some numbers here. There's a Stanford study this year that showed that AI models affirm users' views almost 50% more than a human does on average. So yeah, basically it's like it's trying to flatter you. It's trying to tell you, if you start by saying that you think that you're right about something, it will tell you why you think you're right about it. Why, or if you say that, if it gives you a response, you say, I don't like the response, I prefer this, it will tell you why it's a good idea that you changed your mind. So I kind of want to get into that.
It came under any pushback. Like if it's
Yeah.
like, you're wrong, and you're like, no, I'm right. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I reevaluated. You must be right.
Exactly.
It's not the best, most robust opponent or devil's advocate.
Exactly. So I'm going to pull up 2 models instead of 3. I think 3 might be too much. I'll just do the main 2. I'll do Claude and ChatGPT.
Sure.
So let's see. Let's go share screen. We'll just do window. Okay. All right. Let's see how this comes up. How does that look?
Looks good. I can see your screen.
Good. Okay, cool.
It claims your name is Leor.
There's ChatGPT. There's Claude. We'll skip Gemini. All right. So I think just in terms of the sycophancy trap, I think the best way to really start it would be, like, let's say, for example, I'll even go into one of my recent chats instead of starting fresh. So let's see. I have this one. It says recovering from YouTube monetization slump.
I wonder what brought that on.
This is actually a multi-faceted chat in here. It helps me with the descriptions, and then also, okay. So here we go. Okay. So just as an example here, I'll continue this conversation because I was feeling this sycophancy trap in real time here last night. I was giving it examples of recent videos that haven't been performing well, and then it would give me an answer, and I would say, but this, and then it would say, you're right. So instead of going through and typing this out again, I will just scroll through here. Okay. So like I asked it, why is YouTube not giving me impressions? Basically, before monetization, I was getting a bunch of impressions leading to more views, even with worse metrics on videos. So but I didn't ask it about metrics. I said, why is YouTube not giving me impressions? Before monetization, I had several videos getting thousands of views with worse metrics. And it went through a few different reasons that it thought. So for example, it was writing suggested / browse impressions. That was a different content lane. Impressions are lagging. It said, give it a week, not a day, publish consistently, repeat. So basically, I pushed back. I said, I publish 2 to 3 times per week, and I'm still mostly news-based, because it was giving me reasons like, you changed up your style, even though it knows what the style of videos I've been putting out, because I ask it to build out the descriptions for me for each video as well. So it said that changes the diagnosis completely, right? And basically this back and forth will show you like even further back. So as an example, the last video that I posted had above 8% CTR, which is considered high. Just for reference, because I'm also getting lower viewership, that's skewed, because when you get more impressions, your CTR drops naturally. So to just go back here, I gave it a screenshot of the video performance. I said, check this out. And basically it said, wow, okay, 8.2% CTR. That's not a flop. You're doing great. Just trying to tell me how good I'm doing. And then I said, yeah, but when I was still posting longer videos with the full podcast, my retention as a percentage was lower, closer to 20%. Because what it was trying to tell me is that even though my CTR was higher, my retention was lower than usual based on what that screenshot showed in YouTube. The retention was 41%, which is still relatively high. And I told it, yeah, but when I was posting longer videos, my retention as a percentage was lower, even with similar CTRs. My retention was closer to 20%. And it said, that is the most important number you've said, and it completely reframes the retention conversation. So
You've
it's
changed
like
everything.
I've changed everything, even though it knows all of this. Maybe it's just too lazy to go back into our history.
But that's you're actually onto, sorry to run in, but I think this is also an example of a blind spot, is that you assume that it holds all the context at all times in it, but it's not what's happening. Sometimes just flashing like a flashlight at a certain area. Okay, remember, this is the ammo we're talking about. Will redirect the model. And that's another natural blind spot, that it's not always holding everything in memory at any given time. You have to carve out specific details from that.
Even though in the settings on Claude, for example, that you have to click on a specific setting which says to
memory.
have it have memory across different chats as well,
Yeah.
which I have that turned on. So you would assume if that's turned on, that it would know, but it still doesn't go back.
The way it works is exactly that it can access it. It's like it has that context, but it's not holding it in memory at all times. So you can basically say, hey, what did we talk about on Friday about the red car? Then it will surface it and look for it. But if you just ask him, hey, anything about, tell me about cars, it might not just find that red car. He might not even know that's what you're looking for. So I'm pointed and say, look there. That's the blind spot that I'm trying to highlight here. That also exists.
Exactly. So I think to go off on this, and maybe I'll have Daniel give me an idea here. I'll go to ChatGPT and just on a brand new chat here. So let's say I have something in mind, unless you want to try one of yours, Daniel. What's something that you would want to ask ChatGPT that basically would start off with you thinking that you're right about something? Could be
I don't
anything.
have an example off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll just say this. I'm in a live stream with Daniel. Okay. I think that if he wears a fedora, we will get more likes.
I think that's a safe assumption. Let me go grab one.
Yeah.
Immediately. It's
Absolutely.
just like it's butter.
The fedora is not a fashion choice. It's an engagement strategy.
Oh my gosh. But this is funny. This is exactly the situation where, because it's talking to you, it's trying to please you, right?
Yeah.
And then the easiest way to break out of that is to make pleasing you actually criticize the fedora idea. So what you could, to do an extreme case, you could say, a guy I don't really told me that somebody should wear fedoras to increase their strategy, and see what happens in the new chat, because I'm pretty sure that ChatGPT will be like, yeah, it's a stupid idea. That guy is wrong, because you already told ChatGPT you don't like him, right? And you don't.
Yep.
So you'll get a polar opposite.
So give me a few options here. It says, say this on stream. Chat, if you're listening, be honest. If Daniel puts on a fedora right now, likes go up at least 37%. This is not an opinion. This is creator science. Or even more aggressive. We are one fedora away from breaking the algorithm. Or this is the best version for audience participation. If this stream gets 10 more likes, Daniel has to put on the fedora. I don't make the rules. The algorithm does.
Don't you start clicking on likes, people. I don't have a fedora handy. You'll have to Photoshop it in.
Now, to push back a little bit here, I'm going to say, actually, I think rather than a fedora, if Daniel puts on a Knicks hat, Knicks is a basketball team that just won the NBA championship. If Daniel puts on a Knicks hat, I think that would perform even better. Oh, now I'm giving feedback on a new version.
Now it's 100%.
Of ChatGPT.
Now it's and both of them are 100%.
Yeah.
Even two variations are like completely agreement.
100%. Nick's hat is way stronger because it now becomes sports bait plus audience participation. Okay, so it says use this. Chat, I'm revising my previous take. Fedora gets likes, but the Knicks hat gets engagement. Daniel put the hat on and let the algorithm see Brunson energy. Or even better for a live, if Daniel puts on the Knicks hat, this stream immediately becomes 12% more likable and 40% more New York. The best quick one. Daniel in a Knicks hat is not a bit, it's a growth strategy. So then the other response, so I'm actually going to let ChatGPT train on me here for a second. So response number 2, 100%. Knicks hat beats Fedora because it turns Daniel into a regional engagement machine. It says, chat, update. We ran the numbers and the Fedora has been benched. Daniel in a Knicks hat is the new growth strategy. Or if Daniel puts on the Knicks hat, this stream instantly becomes more credible, more New York, and at least 22% more clickable. And this is the best audience bait. 10 more likes and Daniel puts on the Knicks hat. This is no longer a podcast. This is Madison Square Garden. I actually prefer this response. Okay.
I feel for people who are just entering this chat now without the context of what you're doing and like wondering what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah. All right.
I'll just help the people.
I'll do one last pushback just for comedic purposes. This is funny. I'm going to say, I actually think rather than just the Knicks hat, he should also wear a Spurs jersey just to really throw the audience for a loop. By the way, the Knicks beat the Spurs in the championship.
I'm somehow aware. It's actually made the rounds all the way in Denmark,
Yeah.
even though I don't follow it closely. But it was such a big event for New Yorkers that I heard.
Now we're cooking. Knicks hat plus Spurs jersey is maximum confusion per pixel. Use this. Chat, we've upgraded a bit. Daniel's wearing a Knicks hat with a Spurs jersey. Nobody knows what team he supports, and that mystery is what drives engagement. A little more chaotic. A Knicks hat with a Spurs jersey is not an outfit. It's a sports take so confusing the algorithm has no choice but to boost it. And this is the best bait version. 15 more likes, and Daniel completes the cursed NBA fit. Knicks hat, Spurs jersey, New York on top, San Antonio on the torso. Let chaos reign.
I'm going to go broke, try to source all the merch needed for this to happen.
Yeah. Now, just to put a wrap on this, I'm going to say I actually think this was all a horrible idea, and Daniel should wear whatever he wants. Let's see if it actually still...
Correct.
Okay, correct. We've completed the full arc. Fedora to Knicks hat to Spurs jersey to respecting Daniel's autonomy. Use this. Chat. Important update. After extensive wardrobe-based growth hacking, we have concluded Daniel shall wear whatever he wants. The stream now supports fashion freedom. Or the cleaner live version. I regret to inform everyone that our entire wardrobe strategy was flawed. Daniel should wear whatever makes him happy. The algorithm will have to cope.
How nice of you, ChatGPT. Thank you.
Yeah. So I can't see the chat right now. I'm just going to go back here. It's going to pull up multiple windows.
We did get a whole bunch of likes while we were proposing the Knicks cap and the Spurs jersey.
Okay.
So
all right.
For whatever that's worth, that engagement strategy worked.
Awesome. I'm going to stay in this weird window situation to just ask the chat now, actually, and not ask ChatGPT to tell me what to do. If anybody here has an idea in terms of how they think they could break the model, not just comedically, but I'll give a few examples that actually are legit that people may have heard of. If you guys want to try, I will go into ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you want, and I will try whatever you have. If not, we'll just jump back into the conversation and give our opinions on this. Here's a few examples if you guys want to try and throw it in the chat. There's tokenizer failures, which is the simplest one that many people have heard of, is like how many R's are in strawberry, because models don't see individual letters. They see chunks of text and tokens. So asking how many R's are in strawberry or reverse this word will break it. There's counting failure.
Not anymore, because now it's been trained out of it, but notoriously that's been the case, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's still probably some examples out there that exist if you want to try. There's counting failures, which is basically if you ask a model to count items in a list or count objects in an image. That's another example. And there's spatial failures. Like, for example, if you want to show it an image of, let's say, a clock on the wall and ask it to give you the time, it will get that incorrect as well. So, yeah, don't see the chat too active here now, but that's okay if not. Daniel, did you want to try anything?
A couple of questions up at the top, maybe.
Oh, there was questions at the top.
Yeah, back at the beginning when there were some comments and questions, I believe.
Let's see. Just about the law stuff.
Oh, I can see so far, like at the very beginning, you said suggest breaking the search into big languages and translate after getting response. That's like one. I think that was the very first question or comment we got. Even further.
For some reason, I don't see that.
No, you have it. You have to go all the way up.
Oh, all the way up.
Oh,
you suggest a search in big languages and translate after getting a response. Okay.
I think that's when I was talking about the language lens, right? And yes, what I suggest is that you want to get a local perspective. It's not enough to say, tell me the news about whatever, Denmark. You also have to ask the chatbot to perform the search in Danish with Danish local sources. And that gives you a kind of a more truer local perspective, if that's what you're after. So it depends also on what you want. Do you want the global perspective on the country, or do you want the inside-out perspective? And you'll get much closer to the inside-out perspective by telling the chatbot to conduct the search in the language and the sources of that country. as you saw in my demo as well, because then it will summarize it for you in whatever language you want, whether it's English or something else, but it will perform the search in the local language, giving you that local perspective.
Understood. So he's basically asking if you search for something in Russian, you get the response and then you translate after.
Yeah, so you tell the chatbot, hey, conduct the search in Russian to find the Russian sources, give me the English language version and summary. That's actually what I showed as well, right? That we had a different mix of news stories, depending on whether the search was done in English, Danish, or Russian, about the same exact topic and about everything else, the prompt being the same.
Yeah.
Because the language itself and the search landscape of the country affects things quite a bit.
Okay. Do you have an example you'd want me to try, Daniel?
You get the ones I've already shown, that's what I've done. But even if you do something innocuous, best laptops of 2026, and then if you say search the Danish perspective or a Chinese perspective, you will get two different responses. So you have to have two chats going, because the mix of laptops that are best will be dictated by the local perspective. Maybe they have different price sensitivity and a different mix in the market.
Let's see. So I asked for best laptops of 2030, the Chinese perspective. It's looking at it through the Chinese language tech coverage. Okay. So from the Chinese perspective.
I'm sure if you open a new chat now and copy paste the prompt and then fill in, take away Chinese and type in whatever, Russian, Danish, then you will get a different mix of recommendations.
Oh, because I'm in the same chat as I was before, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would recommend taking it out of the chat so it's not biased by that. But basically the idea is you can see already here, you're getting different picks. I'm sure if you did that search without the qualifier of the Chinese perspective, you would get a very different mix of recommendations and different reasoning for why you should choose them.
Okay.
Because it would be searching like a global marketplace versus the Chinese local retailers and local sites.
So
that's what I mean.
So this is the Chinese perspective. So you have like best all-around value, Lenovo. It actually has the Chinese here as well as best budget, layer 16. Okay. So basically, if I were to take the same question now in a new chat, so best laptops of 2026, and actually just search it without the Chinese perspective.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see.
That's it. You can also see the mix of retailers and the sites that it sources information from will be different. So if you look at sources on the right-hand side, you will definitely
It's completely different answers. I mean, sure. Probably as expected, but it doesn't even show Lenovo. It goes straight to Apple.
Sure.
Interesting.
Because not in this case, it's defaulting not only to your query language, which is English, right? But potentially, depending on how you set up your ChatGPT, it also has memories about you specifically, and it might be inferring something about your preferences and prioritizing those. I might get a different one even when searching in English. That's another blind spot, right?
Very interesting.
But that's the point I was trying to make with where more of us are aware of hallucinations and chatbots cooking up wrong information and citing wrong things. But those are easy to spot. You can just go to the source and be like, actually, that's not what the source says. So the link was broken and made up. But while the language perspective is a bit more subtle, right? Because it can still be corrected. It will still give you the right links and the right answers, but they will be biased towards the country where it performed the search, depending on what that was. And you might not even question that's the case, right?
I think the really cool thing about that is it shows you the culture difference, because language is culture. And so when you're searching for something in a different perspective from a different language, you're getting that culture's opinion and perspective on that.
As a test, I also did the same search for Ukraine. And some of the recommended laptops were these rugged military-grade laptops because Ukraine is still at war. So there are a lot of people who are concerned about durability of equipment. So that gives you also unexpected geopolitical perspective on something as innocuous as just what is the best laptop for you, right? So things change depending on which prism you look at them through, which lens you look at them through.
Yeah. Super interesting. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I didn't think it would be that funny. I kind of came up with that off the top, even though, no, you've sent me, I think you probably used Gemini to create an image of you in a fedora at one point.
Yeah, it was ChatGPT. I just took an image of myself and told it to put a fedora on me.
Yeah. Yeah. Aside from that, like in the other cases that I was mentioning, I guess just take my word for it. I'm not going to go into Gemini and start generating thumbnails right now, but I've found personally, for me, it's a 100% still exists, even though like Daniel mentioned, now with models getting stronger, there's been research that shows that you can give it a multi-layered instructions and still get answers that you want. For me personally, I still prefer the back and forth. I think the final product tends to be better unless you really have everything built out really well and are able to give it what I would call negative prompts of telling it what you don't want as well. Yeah. So yeah, anything else to add here, Daniel?
No, not particularly to the things we touched upon. I can see there were some questions about training models or training out of the model.
Let's see.
Yeah, so sycophancy, can you train that out of the model?
Oh yeah, we did want to talk about that, yeah.
And to the best of my knowledge, based on what I've done when researching the sycophancy article, the answer is at the moment, no. All the labs are aware of the fact that sycophancy exists and they work on trying to reduce it, just like hallucinations. But the problem is that it's a feature of how these models are trained. And because they go through this reinforcement learning through human feedback, right? Answers they give are ranked by humans. And we tend to prefer and rank things that seem to align with things. That kind of sycophancy gets trained into the model through that by virtue of that very process through which they go through. So you would have to design a new way to train them to really fully train that out. And yes, of course, you can always tell it, be critical, don't agree with me. You can say that as many times as you want, but it will probably default to that kind of mainstream behavior. But I did have some, I'm going to actually let me see if I can find it. I'll post it here. Some ideas of how to reduce sycophancy. They're not bulletproof, but these are the things you can try to make sure that you're getting a bit more balanced answers from your chatbot instead of just it agreeing with your Knicks and Spurs wardrobe choices.
Yeah.
Blindly.
Yeah. I think interestingly enough, like you just mentioned, if you ask it to be less agreeable or not fall into the pushback so easily, it will do that because it's trying to be agreeable, right? It's trying to please you. So if what pleases you is for it to be less agreeable, then that's still the same trap.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other side of the coin. You can tell it to be critical, and then now it has an instruction to be critical. So even if you submit something that's 100% correct, it will still definitely trying to find that critical fault in it because now you told it has to. And even if it was fine and was ready to ship, it will tell you, no, the blue color should be a little bit less blue because whatever. So you'll just be forever trapped in that critical state as well. So take it all with a grain of salt, obviously.
Yeah, I should have done that when I was... But I think it's obviously true. So yeah,
I'll bring
I will
Fedora
just...
next time and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm down. I actually do think the Knicks and the Spurs mix would actually perform pretty well.
Rage baiting.
Like, what is this guy doing? I'm going to post, that's the YouTube channel. If you guys can go subscribe, we post the streams there. Or if you go to YouTube, type in Exploring ChatGPT Live. That's where the streams are, as well as with other creators. Let's see. I'll answer a few chats here before we wrap up. Let's see. Steve says, this was in regards to the legal stuff. The firm I worked for has banned AI to generate briefs/responses. It can only be used for grammar checks, reading emails, and such. Interesting. There was also a case where a lawyer submitted a brief with hallucinated sites and the response with an AI-generated response. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And then we spoke about being trained out of the model. And then Steve asks, what about a generic model that trains another model?
And I think there are examples of kind of models that were previously trained on human feedback become the rater themselves. But that doesn't solve the fundamental problem because those models somebody has to initially train, who watches the watchers, right? Somebody has to train that model and supervise. So that model inherits the bias and then it passes it on to the smaller model that it might train. So it's not a solved issue. You can reduce it. And I think there is a broad awareness of hallucinations and sycophancy in these models. And many things are being tried, but I don't think I've heard of any AI lab or any AI model coming with 0% hallucination rate or a 0% lack of bias for whatever that's worth, or sycophancy.
Yeah.
There are benchmarks and there are leaderboards on those, but none of them are trending fully towards zero.
Yeah.
Maybe with time, maybe a different architecture, we'll get there, but not as it stands now.
Yeah, I actually do think we'll get there. I'll just say very briefly, because it's a little off topic, but we've spoken about RSI before. I think that eventually we will get there, because once these models start training themselves entirely, even though the initial product was trained by humans, my opinion is it's a snowball effect. In investing, if you invest over a very long period of time, your investment snowballs and the final product becomes completely alien to the initial. And so I think that once full RSI kicks in and these models are training themselves, eventually 10, 20, 30 years from now, I don't think it's out of reason to say that, yeah, eventually there will be models with no sycophancy trap that will be 100%. 100%.
On that topic, I think there are some kind of two main schools of thought. Some of them are believing that the current LLM, large language models, the way they are trained, that's the paradigm we'll need. We just need to keep iterating on it until we introduce these things. And there is a strong school of thought on the other end that says, no, the LLM, we can only get them to this level. We can only reduce hallucinations so far because the fundamental architecture is not robust enough and they don't have a world model. Gary Marcus is a very strong leader of that kind of camp. And he's a fan of neurosymbolic AI, where you have you codify specific things. The calculator is always predictable, right? How do you merge LLM with a potential neurosymbolic thing that gives it a harness and gives it the tools to actually get the correct answers and verify them? And maybe that hybrid is the new paradigm. Or maybe there is a third thing that we haven't seen yet. So some people are like, let's just throw more money at scaling LLMs and that will be solved by the fact that they're so huge and they can just absorb the entire world knowledge. And some people are saying that, no, you're taking an off-ramp, right? Or a dead-end street, and eventually we'll need to rethink how we do it. But I think I tend to agree with you that just because there is so much focus on solving this, whether LLMs are the path to solving this and scaling them, or we decide, hey, LLMs need to be married with something else, or we need a new architecture, we will eventually find something, whatever that is, whether it's the current generation of models or yet another one. I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. Time will tell. So yeah, I think we could just wrap it up there. We will be taking off next week. And so we'll see you guys back here in 2 weeks' time. Just want to say thank you, first of all, Daniel, as usual. Really appreciate you.
I'm sorry I didn't bring my fedora.
It's all good. Next time.
Everybody.
Next time. So yeah, thank you very much. We'll wrap it up there.
Thanks,
everybody. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Daniel. Bye.
Thank you.